Coming up today, Korea's opposition bloc is expected to end its 8-day-long record-breaking filibuster in the coming hours. They've been attempting to block the passage of a controversial anti-terror bill. The United Nations delays a vote on tough new North Korea sanctions at Russia's request. The vote will now be held on Wednesday in New York. First, it's Super Tuesday in the US. 12 states have been voting for their favorite Republican or Democrat. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are projected to be the big winners. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Wednesday, the 2nd of March. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you ever so much for tuning in. I'm Mark Broom. We are going to begin with domestic politics. The main opposition party's floor leader is at the podium as the Minju Party of Korea winds down its record-breaking filibuster aimed at blocking a controversial anti-terrorism bill. For more, we go to our Shin Se-min, who is on the line standing by for us at the National Assembly. So, Se-min, what's the latest?
Hi, Mark. The party has announced it will end the filibuster, with the floor leader Jong-un being the last speaker. But there is still a question about when it'll actually end. Now, looming speculations at the parliament is that it'll end sometime this afternoon. Just to give you the background of what the opposition party's atmosphere is like, the spokesperson and fellow lawmakers said before the regular morning meeting that the speech won't likely end by 3 p.m. as the floor leader had postponed all meetings scheduled up until 3:30 this afternoon, indicating that his speech at the filibuster might continue until then. Now, during his speech, the floor leader has called on the opposition parties to join forces for a parliamentary election slated for April 13th, saying the only way to overturn the counterterrorism bill is to gain majority seats in the parliament. Now, the same remark was also reiterated by Minju Party leader Kim Jong-un during the meeting this morning.
So, Se-min, we know pretty much for sure now that the party is going to end the filibuster probably sometime this afternoon. That presumably means then that we are going to see a vote on the counterterrorism bill and the other pending bills. They're going to be held sometime pretty soon. Is that right?
That's right. Once the filibuster ends, as you said, the counterterrorism bill will automatically come up for a vote since it was already introduced last week. Lawmakers will also vote on another pending bill that redraws country's electoral map, as there has already been an agreement on that as well. Also, a pending bill on North Korean human rights could also come up for a vote, too. Now, the ruling Trinity Party floor leader, Won Yu-chul, said this morning that the vote will proceed as soon as the filibuster ends, so we'll keep an eye on that as well. Now, that's all I have for now. I'm Shin Se-min reporting from the National Assembly.
Well, thank you very much, Se-min, for that report. Now, the UN Security Council has delayed its meeting to vote on the new resolution on North Korea's recent nuclear and long-range missile tests. Originally set for Tuesday afternoon, it has been pushed back by around 24 hours. Connie Kim with the details.
The 15 members of the Security Council are set to vote on a new resolution on North Korea on Wednesday morning at the UN headquarters in New York. Officials say Russia had asked for a one-day review of the draft resolution, pushing back the voting schedule. The conventional rule is that following the Council's agreement on a draft resolution, a so-called blue text is printed, upon which a vote must wait 24 hours. Russia has been holding up an agreement on the final draft resolution, and according to Japanese broadcaster NHK, Moscow has made last-minute changes to the resolution. According to a revised copy obtained by NHK, an exception has been made on a ban on aviation fuel to North Korea. The fresh set of sanctions will allow the sale and supply of aviation fuel to civilian North Korean aircraft. An official in charge of mineral resources trade between North Korea and Russia has also been dropped from the initial list of individuals and organizations subject to UN sanctions. With the change, 12 organizations and 16 individuals will be slapped with sanctions if the resolution passes as expected on Wednesday. Since North Korea carried out its nuclear test in early January, Security Council members put their heads together to draw up the strongest sanctions yet on Pyongyang. If adopted, mandatory inspections of cargo, an expansion of a weapons ban, and a trade ban on coal, iron, and gold are expected to pressure the regime to give up its nuclear weapons program and encourage Pyongyang back to the negotiating table. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now, the draft resolution on North Korea was one of the main topics of discussion during UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon's closed-door meeting Tuesday with Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Geneva. Russian officials say Ban and Lavrov talked about the planned UN sanctions on Pyongyang for its recent nuclear and long-range missile provocations and other issues as well related to the Korean Peninsula. Ban and Lavrov are in Switzerland for the ongoing session of the UN Human Rights Council. In Moscow, senior Russian diplomats met with the US ambassador to Russia for talks on the North Korea sanctions. Russia has said that it's yet to make a final decision on the draft resolution, as we just heard, but it has signaled that there should be no problem providing its demands are considered by the Security Council. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has paid a visit to a factory known to have made missile components for the regime. This is according to North Korea's central news agency on Wednesday. The young leader inspected the same factory with his father and then leader Kim Jong-il back in 2011 before the elder Kim's death in the same year. Now, analysts say the move is a sign of North Korea's determination to go ahead with its weapons development despite a new UN sanctions resolution that is about to go up for a vote. And North Korea has declared its intent to boycott the UN Human Rights Council. Pyongyang's foreign minister, Lee Soo-young, made the announcement in Geneva on Tuesday. He also said Pyongyang will not care about the voting results on human rights records. Park Jung-hong has the details.
North Korea's top diplomat blasted the UN Human Rights Council, saying the regime has had enough. Lee Soo-young said his country would no longer take part in international sessions, claiming the council applies double standards and singles out North Korea's human rights situation.
It's deplorable that the Human Rights Council, whose unique mission, unlike other U.S. bodies, is to promote and protect human rights, has been turned into a mechanism full of politicization.
In particular, he slammed the council, saying it had become contaminated with political point scoring and selectivity. Lee said his country provided education, housing, and jobs for its people, and yet North Korea was a target of a, quote, human rights racket. He said Pyongyang will ignore any decisions made by the human rights body.
Any resolutions to be adopted against the DPRK in such sessions will remain nothing but a proof of partiality and double standards. Whether or not such resolutions are to be put to a vote will be none of our business, and we'll never ever be bound by them.
The UN Human Rights Council has repeatedly taken issue with North Korea's human rights abuses and released a landmark report in 2014, which accused its leadership of being involved in wide-ranging crimes against humanity. Park Jung-hong, Arirang News.
Plunging exports continue to haunt the South Korean economy, an economy already struggling with sluggish domestic demand. A short-lived uptick in the country's overall output ended after a solitary month as the manufacturing sector was hit hard by slowing global demand. Hwang Ji-ae reports.
Korea's output across all industries was down 1.2% in January from the previous month, after going up over 1% in December of last year, breaking a 2-month downward streak. The figure sunk again. Statistics Korea says the drop came from a fall in production in the mining and manufacturing sectors, which were hit hard by slumping outbound shipments. Korea's exports plunged for the 14th straight month in February, marking the longest downslide the country has ever posted. And because the drop mainly stems from slowing global demand, especially in China, policymakers are turning their focus to the domestic economy, and the situation here does not look much better. Facing the end of a temporary tax cut for automobiles in January that was introduced by the government to boost spending, retail sales dropped nearly 1.5% from the previous month. The finance ministry expects the output figure to rebound in February as the government extended the tax cut and as exports are forecast to rise in terms of volume. The export figure released earlier this month is based on sales in dollar terms. Hwang Jie, Arirang News.
Now, Korea has posted a current account surplus each and every month for almost 4 years now. But concerns continue to linger that the country's surplus run is mostly due to sluggish domestic demand as imports have dropped by a bigger margin than exports. The Bank of Korea says the country posted a surplus of slightly over $7 billion in January. That's a tad less than the $7.3 billion surplus in December, but up by $800 million from the same month last year. Exports of goods dropped nearly 16% from a year ago on the back of sluggish exports of display panels and petroleum products, while imports plunged over 20%. Now, let's get the latest on the US presidential race. The much-anticipated Super Tuesday has arrived and voters across 12 states are flocking to the polls, or have been at least, to cast their ballots. The results are coming in as we speak, but who are the big winners so far? Well, they are Republican candidate Donald Trump and Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton. Let's bring in our Han Dan now at the News Center for more. Dan.
Mark, there were no dramatic reversals. As many had expected, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton won big in primaries and caucuses across many of the 12 states up for grabs on this Super Tuesday. We're still waiting for results from a few more states, but we can clearly see that Trump and Clinton are dominating the race. According to CNN, Trump, still riding high from his recent wins, is expected to pick up 5 states: Alabama, Georgia, Massachusetts, Tennessee, and Virginia, while Clinton is set to take 6 states, including Arkansas, Texas, and 4 others. Republican candidate Ted Cruz has won Oklahoma and Texas, while Clinton's rival Bernie Sanders has taken Oklahoma and Vermont. Taking a look at the numbers in some of the states, CNN's projections at 11:40 a.m. Korea time. In Georgia, Trump won nearly 42% of the vote and Clinton 72%, knocking out Sanders by big margin. In Virginia, Trump won 35% and Clinton nearly 65%. In Oklahoma, Cruz took the state with nearly 35% of the vote, and Sanders beat Clinton with 52% of the vote. Clinton, speaking to supporters in Florida just about an hour ago, said America must break down barriers, stressing unity in clear opposition to Trump's hardline immigration plan. Donald Trump, speaking soon afterward, offered starkly different views of the country in his remarks. Now, Trump's Super Tuesday win is expected to intensify rising concerns among some Republicans in the party for openly refusing to support him, with some even saying they will withdraw from the party if he becomes the nominee. Mark?
Well, thank you very much, Dan, for that comprehensive wrap-up of Super Tuesday. We'll have the full results as we get them during our next newscast. Now, Moody's Investors Service has lowered China's credit rating from stable to negative. The rating agency on Wednesday attributed the downgrade to the country's rising government debt and a continuing fall in foreign exchange reserves. It also noted uncertainty over the capacity of authorities to undertake reforms needed to address imbalances in the economy. Moody's affirmed China's long-term credit rating of AA3, saying the nation's fiscal and foreign exchange reserves still do remain sizable. Korean conglomerates could soon enjoy a longer grace period before they're required to absorb venture companies. That's according to a proposed revision to the country's antitrust law agreed on at a cabinet meeting earlier today, and is part of government efforts to encourage conglomerates to invest in venture companies. Now, under the proposal, a venture company's absorption could be postponed up to 7 years following a merger, up from the previous 3 years. Officials also agreed to scrap the 30% rule requiring special purpose companies, or SPCs, to be absorbed by a conglomerate if its stake within the smaller company amounts to more than 30%. SPCs can now postpone the incorporation process during the construction period as long as the conglomerate doesn't dominate the board of directors or company management. Now, Bill Gates is still the richest person in the world. The Microsoft co-founder topped Forbes 2016 list of billionaires for the third year in a row with $75 billion US. That is actually down from $79 billion the previous year. Gates has topped the list 17 times in the last 22 years, and he was followed this year at least by Amancio Ortega, the Zara kingpin, and Warren Buffett. This year's list of billionaires is shorter and, shall we say, less fabulously wealthy than last year. A total of 1,810 billionaires are on the list. That's down 16 from last year. The average net worth of the billionaires dropped $280 million to $3.58 billion. From Korea, Samsung Group chairman Lee Gun-hee was the world's 112th richest person with $9.6 billion. Amore Pacific CEO So Kyung-bae came in at 148th. Well, that's all we have for now. I'm Mark Broom. Thank you as always for watching. We'll be back throughout the day with more newscasts. Until then, goodbye.